We're here, boys. We are ready to go on a Saturday afternoon. A bit of a different time slot, and I'm friggin' over the moon.
Why is that, Dylan?
Oh, no, it's connected already.
We planned that.
Kanga. We got a win.
Row.
Two wins. Two in our last three now.
What does that feel like?
It's a bit of a weird space.
Yeah, right.
But I was weirdly confident going into this game against the Blues. I said to my dad this afternoon that we should be beating these guys. They've got a few outs. They've had a poor season, and I feel like we're building into this back end of the year, and we could go on a little bit of a run here. I reckon we could win probably 50% of our games.
50%?
I mean, from here, obviously? From this point?
That was from the bye period, so the West Coast. Essentially when we played West Coast, sorry.
Wow.
Okay.
Who else are you going to beat? Not to downplay you. Great result.
No. I think we'll beat... I think North should be setting their sights on, and this would be more in line with what I think the club, where they thought they were going to be at with what they did in the draft last year. But I feel like every team in the bottom 10, we should be targeting as a potential win to be able to push them. I mean, I don't think we're going to be really competing with those like top 4 to top 8 sides necessarily, but I think we could take a scalp here or there, shape the 8. But these type of teams, your Sydneys, your Port Adelaides, your Carltons, that sort of group of teams, I think we should be trying to get past. What do you boys think?
I think the last 3 weeks have been great for North Melbourne. Even though the West Coast game was a terrible football game, you got the result, which is the main thing, and then really admirable, honourable loss against the Dockers where you showed up, probably the better team on the day, and then you rock up at the MCG, which is a ground you don't really play at too often, and you get the dub. Great 3 weeks for North. Best 3 weeks in a long time.
I think it is. Like, I think you're starting to... I sort of saw it, and I mentioned it on I think it was the Freo stream, we talked about how they've sort of become a team now. Jesse will be familiar with this as a West Coast fan. You're kind of scrolling through statistics to see how your team's kind of going in the comp, and you're just in that bottom 2 or 3 teams, like West Coast, North and Richmond, pretty much for every major statistic. North have moved out of that this season.
Okay.
So we're starting to see in like core areas, contested possession, the clearance phase of the game. We certainly don't have a great transition game yet, but we're starting to actually really get on top of teams in certain parts of the game, and I think that's where you see us... we can compete with the better teams in the comp.
My viewing of the Carlton North game was a little disjointed. Obviously, we spent the second half mostly driving here, and in the first half I sort of had people over, and it was funny. It was 19-8 Carlton's way at quarter time, and then we just sort of got talking about the UK. This person was from the UK. And the next time I looked at the score, it was 19-46, and I went, what the hell just happened? It felt like North were able to pile on goals very quickly in this game.
And then I came in and was like, what the hell happened? Because I came in from the Div 12 Resi's game, 6 wins on the trot for the boys, and could not believe my eyes.
It got out to about 50, maybe it was just under, but about 50 points at some stage. I remember getting back, as I was telling you boys before, I've been at the vet this morning with a sick pet, and I came back in, and Dad...
Dylan has rabies.
Yeah, and Dad was watching the stream, and he's like, this is a train wreck. And North, at that point, it was, I think, like 19-10, and then we just didn't stop.
Yeah.
We pretty much went on a roll, kicked like probably 6 or 7 goals in a row, and that was pretty much the game. And we have done that at certain points this season.
Just getting back to, I think it was JD Eagles asked, do Carlton rebuild at this point? Do you think it's fraught with danger, like jettisoning, presumably like trading players on purpose to access the draft now?
It's such a grey area.
Yeah, I don't know.
What were you going to say?
I feel like in the modern game, just committing yourself to a lengthy rebuild is such a painful task. I mean, we support clubs who are at different points in the rebuilds, but like it is just such a long period of time. And if I'm Carlton, I'm nervous about potentially saying, all right, let's pull up stumps, trade what we have within reason, and just hit the draft hard.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd trust Carlton to successfully come out of that, given their 25-year history.
I totally agree. I feel like the more successful model now is actually not doing a really deep rebuild. I mean, we're seeing it with Richmond. We don't know how that's going to go. It looks like they've hit the draft really well, but... you kind of go back to that middle 2000s period, and you had teams like, I say middle 2000s, maybe a little bit later than that. You had teams that really went into heavy rebuild, like the Saints after their little tilt. The Kangaroos went full-blown rebuild.
Oh, West Coast did one that era.
Yeah, you guys were a little bit, I feel like, less deliberate about it.
Yeah.
Because you went after Kelly, you were successful in like 28.
Oh, sorry, I was actually referring to our previous one, post Judd and Cousins, which was also not deliberate. They left.
I feel like teams like Geelong, probably Collingwood to an extent, sort of went, we don't actually, like we're good now. We can sort of leverage the fact that we're good now and just make smart decisions with our list, go to other clubs, look for spare players on lists that we think can do something, go after those big fish when we can. I know not every team can do that, but that seems to be more of a successful model than the deep cut.
Absolutely. And you look at Collingwood and Geelong, and these teams don't stay down the bottom of the ladder, and they endeavour to avoid it at all costs. So I think if Carlton can stay stable, that allows them to potentially lure those big fish, which I don't think happens if they commit to a full lengthy
exactly,
rebuild
because
again,
they've got leverage as the club that they are. Like they pull huge numbers to games. Like if you were a player, any player should want to play for Carlton. Yeah, just based on that. I just think they need to get they just need to get almost like it feels like little bit deeper with them, doesn't it? Like club decisions and ideology and stuff like that. Even, I don't know, like if we want to have the conversation about Michael Voss, like I'm not sure if he's tactically up to it compared to the best coaches in the league as well.
Yeah. Sorry, one other point I'll make about modern day rebuilding is it's great if you have the first picks in the first 5 to 10, but with how compromised it is now, I mean, father-son, it happens a bit. The academies, particularly the northern academies, there's more teams and that's only going to grow. Sometimes, and not sometimes, most recently, like the last 2 wooden spoon teams, I think of, it certainly happened for West Coast. We re-entered the draft with our second pick at pick 30. Outside of having pick 1, we weren't in a great draft position. So that further, I think, disincentivizes a team being like, all right, let's just gut the whole place.
You guys have been crap for years and you haven't really got that much out of the draft other than the Harley draft. It's not like you've had multiple picks inside the top 5.
We've had to trade down. Obviously, there was the awful one last year, but in general, like we traded down and got Jimby and Hewitt, and I think in isolation, that was a really smart move because we needed quality and quantity, and we don't have the quantity of picks. Yeah. And nor does any team.
The thing that always gets overlooked in those rebuilds too, that you can be a team like North and get multiple first round picks, but if you don't, if you don't have the educators actually on your list that can teach those guys, they'll probably never be. There'll be exceptions to that. You always get exceptions where like you'll draft one guy who's just a maniac at training and wanting to be the best, but largely you'll get these top picks and they'll sort of fade away into obscurity. I feel like it's not a coincidence that North continuously draft top 5 picks and they're sort of good, but they're not great. And I feel like that's because of the rest of our list.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of self-driven ones, at least, like Sheasel is self-driven.
Exactly.
Dacos, I think it would have been a start anywhere because of the mindset as much as the player.
Exactly. So then it comes down to that. It's like, what are you recruiting? And I think that's where recruiters these days are actually, with the times that they're allowed to train and stuff like that, with how much contact hours clubs actually get with their players, they start to go, well, we're probably better looking at mentality than actual performance in some ways, or not performance, but skill and attributes. And that sort of thing.
It doesn't get spoken about enough. I'm sure it does, like in the actual industry. Yeah. But the mentality piece of assessing players, which is impossible to do accurately, but I think those driven, insane, obsessed types are ones that are worth their weight in gold. Like someone like a Pendlebury, for instance.
Yeah, he was never not going to make it.
Yeah, exactly.